Working as a taxi driver to get some extra money for Christmas, Melissa Chaboyer picked up 2 passengers and drove into the parking lot of the city center mall in Thompson, Manitoba, Canada. Melissa was stabbed to death and left on the ground as the 2 assailants ran away. Nearly 20 years later, we still do not know who killed Melissa Chaboyer. Welcome back to Unjust Crimes. My name is Michelle, and this is the unsolved murder of Melissa Chaboyer. This is one of the first cases that I did, and I am currently working on redoing some of my first cases because I wanted to upgrade the audio, and a couple of them have some new information. Unfortunately, that is not the case with Melissa's murder. I did do some more research on Melissa's case, but I couldn't find any new information. Just an article from CBC in December of 2024 that went over the case and the fact that her family is still in search of answers to this tragedy. I did learn some interesting facts though. Apparently, cab driving is riskier than police work. In fact, taxi drivers and police have the highest on-the-job risk of murder, according to a Statistics Canada study of occupation-related homicides from 2000 to 2010. Of the two, the study says taxi drivers were twice as likely as police officers to be a victim of homicide while working. A 2008 University of Illinois survey found that 58.7% of Chicago cab drivers said they have been threatened, attacked, and subjected to hostile racial comments. The combination of isolation, picking up strangers, and carrying cash makes taxi drivers a target for criminals, particularly the busy hours of 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. I did not know that. I guess I really didn't think about it, but it makes sense that cab driving is a dangerous job, especially in the wee hours of the morning. But in Melissa's case, her murder came as a shock because she was known to be a gentle person, according to Jazz Gills, who was the manager of North Star Taxi. Quote, "She was one of the gentlest drivers in the whole industry. If someone didn't have the money, she'd smile and say, 'Pay later.' She never would have gotten into a dispute with someone." So I'm not entirely sure if Melissa's name is pronounced Chaboyer or Chaboyer. I do apologize if I am pronouncing it wrong, as I do have a tendency to do that. So on November 25th, 2005, which was a Friday night, after visiting with her mom, Melissa started the graveyard shift with North Star Cabs, and she was driving cab number 302, which was a white cab. Shortly after midnight, which was November 26th, she was dispatched to a call at the Thompson Arena, which was located inside the University College of the North. The caller and number of passengers are unknown. Several minutes later, she called her dispatch and said that she was going to stop at the Ramada Hotel, which is now called the Brentwood Hotel. The hotel was only a 1.2 kilometer or a 1-minute drive from the arena, and it is still actually unknown if she actually went to the arena and picked up any passengers or if she stopped at the Ramada Hotel. All we do know is that by 12:30 a.m. on Saturday, November 26th, Melissa had a fare and 2 people in her cab. She was traveling eastbound, and she passed what was then the Vantis Credit Union ATM vestibule at the rear entrance of the city center mall, and she drove into the parking lot of the mall beside the south doors, and police believe this is where she was attacked and killed by the 2 passengers that were in her car. What exactly happened is unknown, but she was stabbed to death and left on the ground in the freezing Manitoba weather. If she did indeed stop at the arena and the Ramada Hotel, then the distance to where she was killed was only a 2.3 kilometer or about a 1-minute 45-second give or take drive. Her killers fled on foot from the scene, traveling from the Vantis ATM across a field east of the city center mall parking lot, and then disappeared in the direction of the Eastwood area of Thompson. Just before 1 a.m., another longtime Thompson cab driver was in a North Center Mall parking lot adjacent to the City Center Mall parking lot when he noticed the glow of Melissa's taxi top light, and soon after that, her body was discovered on the pavement outside of her cab. A later autopsy revealed that Melissa had been stabbed to death. Melissa Ivy Chaboyer was a 35-year-old Métis woman and single mother to a son, Anthony, who was 17 years old at the time. She was also a loving foster mother to 20 to 30 children throughout the years, and she was known to support these children long after they were in her care and help them with various things like finding housing and so on, and she treated them as if they were her own. And it was said that her greatest joy was her family and that she was close to both of her parents, and she especially enjoyed summers at their cottage because everyone was was there, and her family lovingly called her Lissa. I did find this one report that says that Melissa was known for her dedication to her son, but in the years leading up to her death, she had faced some personal challenges, including struggles with substance abuse. But despite these obstacles, she had maintained close ties with her family, especially her mother, whom she visited regularly. Actually, she had been visiting her mother before she went to work at the cab the night she was murdered. I could not really find too much more on the family, other than her father Milton. Chaboyer has said, quote, he, meaning Anthony, really misses her, Melissa. They weren't mother and son, they were buddies. It was hard on him, especially around the holidays, her birthday, and Valentine's. Her father has also said, quote, Lissa would never hurt anyone and did not deserve what happened to her. Nobody deserves to die in the way that Lissa did. And he has been advocating for Melissa since 2005. Now, Melissa was Métis, as I mentioned, and I mention it because, like I have mentioned in other cases, there is a real epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada and the United States. Indigenous women and girls are 5 times more likely to experience violence than any other population in Canada, and this violence tends to result in more serious harm. On the day of her murder, which was the Saturday, November 26th, hundreds of people attended a ceremony in the parking lot of the City Centre Mall, and a vigil was held that evening. 3 of Thompson's taxi companies, North Star, Driftwood, Nichols, and Cliffs, suspended service that Saturday between 3 p.m. and 7 a.m. the following morning as a sign of respect to Melissa. The cabs lined the lot bumper to bumper to give attendees a place to warm up because it was below freezing, and a few restaurants had donated coffee. Obviously, Melissa's friends and family were devastated, and the entire Thompson community mourned with them. As a direct result of Melissa's murder, the city of Thompson amended its taxi bylaws in 2006, and now all taxi cabs in Thompson are required to be equipped with cameras. Over the years, her family has remained steadfast in their pursuit of justice. They have participated in public appeals, hoping to elicit new information that could shed light on the circumstances of Melissa's death. Community organizations have also rallied in support, organizing vigils and awareness campaigns to keep Melissa's memory alive and to highlight the broader issue of unsolved cases involving Indigenous women in Canada. Since the very day of Melissa's murder, there has been speculation that she was killed for money, because it was Saturday night and she would have had several $100s in cash on her by that point in the evening, but police have never confirmed these suspicions. Unfortunately, there are no suspect sketches for those who killed Melissa. Over the years, the case has changed several times, at least 4, and is now being managed, as far as I know, by the Winnipeg RCMP or the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Melissa's dad, Milton Chaboyer, collects tips and submits them to police. He says that is the only time that authorities communicate with his family about this case. According to a CBC interview, the family reports feeling very left in the dark throughout the investigation. There is a $14,000 reward for information about Melissa's murder. Her father, Milton, is offering $10,000 of his own money, while Manitoba Crime Stoppers has established a reward of $4,000, which is double its standard reward amount of $2,000. Despite extensive efforts, the investigation has faced significant challenges. Key details surrounding Melissa's final hours remain unclear, and potential witnesses have either not come forward or lacked crucial information. And the lack of surveillance footage and forensic evidence has further complicated the case, leading it to come to basically a standstill. Melissa's story has a very sad ending, and her family deserves closure and justice. Her father, Milton, has said, quote, "How can you sleep at night with this on your conscience?" asking the killers in 2007, going on to say that his daughter was a very special person and the family needs closure to this tragic chapter in their lives. So far, nobody has ever come forward, that I know of. But like always, there is someone out there who knows what happened. And like I always say, somebody knows something. And it is well past time that they come forward with what they know. Any information could be the missing piece to this puzzle. And police are asking that anyone who was in the area that fateful night and who may have heard or seen something, or anybody with any information whatsoever, to call the Thompson RCMP at 204-677-6909. You can also contact Manitoba Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-TIPS or 8477. You can also submit a secure tip online by going to www.manitobacrimestoppers.com.